Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ask the Experts, a daily series from 8:30 to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. Any questions in the comments or use the hashtag QBAT on Twitter. If you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. And there are accountants and business experts on hand 24/7 to answer all your questions. During the live session, we'll be running a poll, so please do engage with that, and I will share the results with you in the end. And hi, my name's Sean Goldsmith, and I am a franchise expert. I run a company called The Special Advisor, and I'm a special advisor to franchisors, to franchisees, and generally get involved in anything franchising. Now, if you think about franchising, most people will think about the names like McDonald's and Domino's Pizza, and some of the big clothing brands, etc. But franchising in the UK is so much more than that. Franchising in the UK starts with dog walking, window cleaning, plumbers, almost every single sector that you could possibly imagine. There is a franchise in. So currently there's over 470, I believe, odd franchise networks registered in the UK. There are quite a few more that are still small and in their infancy, growing. But over the past few months, the one thing that we have seen is that franchising has really, really shown its true colors, in the sense that never before have I seen an industry, let alone franchising, come together the way the franchise community has during lockdown. It has been phenomenal to see, some of the most incredible success stories, taking a look at something like the care sector, so I'm not sure if many of you guys know, but there are great numbers of care homes that are run by franchisors. And they've been going throughout this lockdown period. They've been out there on the front line, helping people in their homes, to take care of themselves when they were at their most vulnerable. So there are a lot of stories out there. But again, you start looking at the comparisons between small businesses and franchises in terms of, what do I do now? How do I pivot? How do I sort myself out? And when lockdown happened, the most extraordinary things started happening. I'm just thinking about companies like the Busy Lizzie Kids Club, where within 24 hours they'd taken their whole franchise. There must have been about 30 franchisees, and they've pivoted that whole business, turned it to an online business, and provided the services to their clients. And they weren't the only ones that managed to do that. We were talking to people in every single sector. We were looking at the restaurant sector. We were looking at the children's sector, even just areas like plumbing, etc. That were out there, and they were just trying their very, very best to help. So another good example was a company called Cafe to You. Now, believe it or not, a lot of people may not have heard of Cafe to You, but they are the third largest sort of coffee shop in the country. So they do it on a mobile basis. They have vans that go around to business parks, etc., and they kind of offer people their lunchtime snack and their good coffee, etc. But they were out there, on the front line too. I still remember the stories about how they went and they were providing coffee and lunch to the frontline workers because they couldn't get into restaurants, etc. So the stories go on and on. We have seen direct competitors, working hand in hand to try and figure out the problem. Myself and a really good friend of mine, Adam Lovelock, who runs a company called Coconut Creatives, one of the largest advertising agencies in franchising. We launched what we call the Franchise Mastermind Group. And that Franchise Mastermind Group, we've built a community in there that is absolutely awe-inspiring. We've probably got about 350 odd franchise networks that are currently actively involved in the group. And you should see it. When somebody has a problem, as I said before, even direct competitors are working really, really, really closely to solve those problems. And boy, have they. The children's sector has been talking about everything from, how to social distance, how to prepare, how to get out there again, what the marketing is going to be, all of those critical things that if you weren't in a franchise, you'd have to figure out yourself as a small business. The systems that have been put in place, the sharing of even things like, where do I get, hand sanitizer in bulk? All of those questions have been dealt with. We have had people from the fitness sector. So we've had the CEOs and the MDs of the largest fitness groups in the country, from Anytime Fitness, from Snap Fitness, various others joining us and just talking about the challenges and what they are doing in the background to try and help the franchise community, get ready for this reintroduction into the new world. It's very, very exciting. It's been devastating how badly sort of lockdown has affected many of the businesses. But it's also been just incredibly heartening to see how well the franchise industry has been doing. Probably one of the most, heartwarming sort of events throughout this lockdown has been the messages that have come from franchisees to the franchisors. And in the mastermind group, we actually had a number of these shared with us, where the franchisees were writing into the franchisors, just saying, I absolutely cannot believe how amazing you have been. The support that the franchisors provided in almost all cases was incredible. So, in many cases, what they did is they lowered their royalties, to try and help the franchisee save money. And then what they did is they doubled up the support. So I know these franchisors weren't sleeping. Those first 3 weeks or 4 weeks of lockdown, they were on it. And I know they were on it because I was chatting to them at 2 a.m. and at 1 a.m. and, all hours of the day, just trying to figure out how to basically rescue their franchisees. And I promise you, as far as I'm concerned, franchisors are the masters of business. In fact, we call them the mob. And the reason we feel that they are the masters of business is because not only are they building and developing their own small business, right, that has the challenges of any other small business, but what they're doing is they're taking on the responsibilities onto their own shoulders of helping hundreds of other people also launch their own small businesses and be successful. And if you're not in franchising, you don't quite fully comprehend the personal nature of that mission from a franchisor's point of view, and also how personally they take it when their franchisees aren't doing well. So it's been incredible, and the guys have worked so hard, and now it's actually coming through. So we've got a few questions coming up, and I'm the first question, let me just read it over here from Camille. I'm going to join a franchise program in a few months, which I'm super excited about, and I'm wondering if you have any advice what I should think about or do to be successful. Camille, if you spoke to 500,000 franchisors, the one thing that they would all say to you is trust the system, right? So I have seen over the past sort of 20 years in franchising, and I've personally helped launch over 1,000 franchise businesses. The guys who are successful tend to be the guys who follow the system and follow through, right? They listen to the franchisor, they take all of their advice, and especially in your first year, really focus on that. The other thing that I'd say to you is, especially if you're joining a network, and I'm not sure what size network you're joining, but be the guy who is in contact with the support team all the time. Make sure that you're contacting them, make sure that you are friends with them, make sure that you are the guy that they think of every single time that, something cool or new is happening. And if you are in close contact with your support team and you're supportive of them too, they will pull out all of the stops for you. What you don't want to be is that franchisee who sits in the background, tries his own thing, and just tries to be smarter than the system itself. Because honestly, that really doesn't work in the vast majority of cases. Marie from Instagram, she has a question. What type of franchise ownership do you think is best for new franchisees? In the current climate, you're obviously going to try and take a look at things where you don't necessarily have to have a location, but things are changing, right? Things are happening that are very positive right now. So anything from education, if that's the kind of sector that you're looking at. But what I definitely say is, just try and keep your overheads as low as humanly possible. Wilhelm has got a question here from Facebook. What's the difference between the product distribution franchise and the business format franchise business model? I think the clue is in the name there, Wilhelm. The business format franchise model is all about giving you the format, the structure of running the business, right? So you can take a look at, actually probably one of the best places you can take a look for that is on the BFA website, the British Franchise Association website, and that should give you a nice, clear, concise sort of differentiator on that. So let's just take it through. Well, lots of questions coming through. How long do you recommend, sorry, this is from Annika from Twitter. How long do you recommend a business should be successfully trading before thinking about franchising? And what do you recommend to think about before going down that route? So this is a really interesting question. And ironically, I actually asked this question a few weeks ago on LinkedIn and also within our franchise mastermind. So generally speaking, some of the most successful franchises out there have been trading for about 10 years, right? And before they started franchising. But, there are great success stories now coming through COVID-19 and through the lockdown. There's one business in particular that's just about to start franchising that is only about 3 or 4 months old. And what they do is they do home deliveries, home cooked foods, deliveries. But the demand has been absolutely humongous. They just can't keep up with it. So what I would recommend is speaking to a franchise expert. So I was served on the board of the BFA and, have worked with a number of different franchises. So if you need some advice or, just guidance on who to speak to, feel free to contact me. But speak to somebody who's been around the block a few times. A franchisor, especially an experienced one, should be able to tell you whether or not your concept is franchisable. But it is one of those things where, actually, if you could be in business you could launch your business as a franchise if you've got the right team behind you. Right, let's take a look over here. So Valentine from Instagram, very good question. Morning, Sean. Do you have any? Do you know if there's any typical criteria that franchisors have when choosing a franchisee? Yes. Well, generally speaking, the most important thing that a franchisor is looking for is, are you the kind of person who is going to follow the system, right? Are you somebody who is likable? Generally, if you speak to franchisors, they'll say, do I think I can go to the pub and have a drink with this person? And on a social basis. But really, the teachability is one of the key criteria, because where franchising falls flat is when you have a franchisee who comes in and then tries to change everything. Because in that period of disruption, while they're trying to change everything, things can go horribly wrong, where the franchisee directly next door, who's just following the system and cracking on, could be wildly successful. So it's definitely worth bearing that in mind. Right, Lars from Facebook Messenger. Are there any sectors in the franchising world where it's easier to succeed as a franchisee, or do you think it's best to choose a sector based on interest and knowledge? Lars, really, really good question too. I don't think that there is a particular sector that is necessarily, more successful than others. I mean, that being said, at the moment, the care business is a sector that, now can put a little stamp on their website saying, pandemic resistance, because they have been working throughout this period. But there's pros and cons to everything. So franchising, what I always say to people is find that thing that you're passionate about and that you really can kind of believe in, because underlying the franchise model, the business that you have below that, right? The actual, if you take a look at the spreadsheet, quite often the franchises are quite similar in terms of how much it costs up front, how much the royalties are going to be, how much you can expect to earn over 3 years, and all of that kind of stuff. So if you are looking at a franchise, what I would suggest is going and meeting a great many of them. The other thing that I would say is, although you might think that there's a particular sector that you're interested in, go and look at everything. Do a lot of research before you get into franchising, because it can be a bit of a shock to the system, especially when you've got a franchisor and something that seems at first glance quite easy when you're looking at it from the outside. I would recommend that you spend some time, getting to know your franchisor. Spend some time, if you can, with the franchisees, and I see this all the time where if somebody's about to buy a franchise, what they do is they call up the franchisees of that particular network. Actually, go and visit them. Go and sit down with them. Look at them face to face, and try and spend go and do a whole day in the life of. Get in the van with them, get in the vehicle with them, go and quote with them if they'll allow it. So if you can take it to that extent, I would definitely recommend doing that, because it'll make a huge big difference in how you perceive that industry, how easily you'll actually make some money out of it, and whether or not really it is a passion that you have versus a passion that you might think you have, because some clever PR guys have written a nice article in the newspaper. So that's definitely my recommendation. And then the other thing that you definitely want to do, because even if it is something that you love, you want to know who the people are that are going to be supporting you as an individual, right? This is a massive mistake that potential franchisees always make, is that they spend all of their time getting to know the salesperson, and they are being shown the all the potential of the business, which is quite right. It is absolutely right to do. But what you forget is that post-sale, quite often you are being managed and guided by somebody different. So getting to know the head of support, getting to know the area managers, if at all possible, is absolutely crucial. And, they'll be able to give you information that you would never get in the front end of that sale for the franchise. And they will also be the people who will give you the confidence, right, to be able to go ahead and actually make a success of that business, because they're going to be the ones holding your hand, standing behind you and helping you when things are going bad, and also giving you a pat on the back when you've done a great job. So I hope that answers your question. Let's just take a look over here. Charlotte on Twitter: will the franchisor help me find a good location? Yes, I mean, it's within the franchisor's best interest to kind of help you find the perfect location. It's definitely worth listening to the franchisor. I've seen many cases where the franchisors have made a recommendation, and that recommendation wasn't taken. Things start going south. So I definitely work very closely with the franchisor, but it also makes a big difference in terms of what's sort of franchise you're going with, because some of the big food franchises have effectively run out of territories. So you kind of get what you get given, and if you don't like that particular area, you kind of take it, or leave it. And also in the big, large sort of franchise networks, quite often what happens is you have this phenomenon where the large successful franchisees start buying up the less successful franchisees. So you end up with a few franchisees who have huge multi-unit operations. And what tends to happen quite often, unless the franchisor is quite smart and quite strong about this, is those big successful guys will quite often try and take first dibs on nice new territories. So new people coming in often have a situation where they have to kind of work twice as hard because their territory is not quite as good as it potentially could be. I hope that answers your question. So Mattia from Twitter: hi Sean, do you think the future of franchising will look? What do you think the future of franchising will look like, and do you see any industries doing especially well? Mattia, I really do. I mean, the world of franchising has been just phenomenal to watch. How it's been pivoting. So one of the most sort of predominant changes, or at least the notable changes that I've seen in the franchising world, has been the rise of what they call dark kitchens. Now, for those of you guys who don't know what a dark kitchen is, it's basically a food concept worked on a delivery system, right? So now there's a lot of these things going on. So it's basically somebody has a restaurant and they sell Chinese food, and Uber Eats comes along, or Deliveroo, or somebody like that comes and delivers. But what's happening, which is really, really, really interesting, and there's an amazing guy called Des Phoebe, who's actually kind of spearheading these kind of ideas, is current restaurants are splitting their kitchens. So you might walk into, call it a burger joint, right? And sit down, when you're allowed to sit down and have your burger, not knowing that in the back, that kitchen is also preparing Chinese food, pizza, pasta, and all kinds of things. So out the front door, they've got this beautiful franchise concept, and it's a quick serve restaurant, and it's everything that you've known and liked and trusted over the last years. But out of the back, right, the Uber Eats guys and the delivery guys are going in and out, and that's going to be a massive disruption in the industry. To the extent where we now see that even pubs and smaller sort of operations are creating these dark kitchens and going out there and competing directly with some of the bigger brands, right, and very successfully so. Right. Hope that answers the question. There are other sectors that are also doing really, really well, but please just contact me afterwards. I'm sure my contact details will be in there, and I'd be more than happy to give you some advice on that. Let me just quickly go through here. Yeah, so Mike from on Facebook Messenger. So Mike, I'm not 100% sure if you are talking from a franchisee or a franchisor point of view. A good education in franchising. The question is here, what would you say is a good education to have if I'm interested in the franchising world? If you're a franchisee, the one company that I think does an absolutely phenomenal job at educating their franchisees is McDonald's. In fact, McDonald's is it's very, very difficult to find something wrong with McDonald's when you look at how they support and how they pivot and things. But from the point of view where if you want to buy a franchise, you've got to go and work in that business first. They won't even let you think about buying one of the franchises before working in the business. And my recommendation, if you're looking at it from a franchisee point of view and you have the capital, I would just go and work with a franchise or spend some time interviewing franchisees, etc. From a franchisor point of view, if you're looking at franchising your business, so the best sort of educational kind of options for you, if you take a look at I don't know which country you're in, but if you're in the UK, the British Franchise Association runs a number of seminars. There's a bunch of sort of programs running out there. We've just launched something called the Franchise Peer Boards, which is an ongoing educational sort of process and support process for franchisors, where we kind of believe that franchising isn't something that you can just learn in a day or two or a week. It's something where you really, really need to be supported and well looked after. So what we've created is these franchise peer boards, where industry experts and also peers, get together and we work together to make franchising successful. Which is going to be really, really interesting and something that I'm really passionate about, helping the franchisors. So let's just see. I think it's Leonie from Twitter. Hi, Sean. How do I know if my business has what it takes to become a franchise operation? What would you say are the advantages and disadvantages of franchising a business? Any advice much appreciated. Leonie, the advice that I'd give you over here is, if your business is replicable, so if you are able to, say, well, if I was not in this business, then, I could teach somebody how to do it. And if they just followed my guidance step by step, they would be successful. Because what I have done in my own business is I've gone and I've learned all the hard lessons, right? I have made all the wrong decisions. I've made all the right decisions. I've tried all the marketing. I've tried this and I've tried that and the next thing. So your experience is something that should be able to give you a guide in terms of whether or not you think your business, could be replicable. Of course, the next thing you should do, and maybe even very early on, is come and speak to somebody like myself or any of the other consultants that are out there in the franchising industry, just to do a little bit of an assessment on your business, right? To see whether or not, your business is suitable to give to somebody else to grow. Because quite often what happens is people overestimate what their franchise is able to do, or their business is able to do. And a franchising expert should be able to give you guidance on that really, really quickly. Now, the advantages and disadvantages. One of the big advantages of franchising is it is one of the most fulfilling, wonderful sectors in the world. So if you as a franchisor can, effectively help somebody who potentially has just had an inheritance, somebody who's used their, quite often their last savings, to get into business. But they don't want to go and do it all by themselves because they know what the risks are, And, in terms of risk, 93%, 93.7% of all franchises are not only successful, but also profitable in year three, which is almost the opposite of what you might find in small business itself. But when you are that person who has helped somebody go from nothing to being able to take their family on holiday for the first time, finally pay off their house, all of those kind of things, you will never ever feel such an intense feeling of self-satisfaction, in any other industry, in my opinion. The downsides are, generally speaking, franchisors are heavily invested in their franchisees. And when things don't go right, and quite often this is because of the foundations that are not correct right in the beginning, when things don't go right, it is mentally quite taxing when you have somebody who comes to you and says, look, this is not working, and it's because your system is at fault, right? Because you didn't prepare me properly, or you missold me, or anything like that. Very rarely is that actually the truth. Often it's just a matter of that person is going through some other stuff in their lives. But I'll tell you what, it can be very, very, very difficult on you, mentally. And even, we've seen loads of examples now within the sort of franchising world where, this lockdown period has been very taxing on the franchisors. And, what they have gone through has been huge because they've put everything on the line for their franchisees to try and make sure that their franchisees are okay. And for me, that's just been amazing. So, I suppose the other main advantage of the franchising world right now is you will be joining a very small and wonderful family. So as a franchisor, I can now tell you that you can very, very much sort of depend on other franchise networks and other franchise founders supporting you and helping you and being very, very interested in what your business does and how successful you are. Anyway, so guys, I just wanted to sort of let you know. So we're just getting to the end of the time here. If there are any questions that I've missed, please feel free to contact me. We'll put the contact details in the comments. But just our poll results, right? So the results are in, and we asked you, have you ever considered franchising your business? And 40% of you said yes, and 60% of you no. Honestly, I think that's brilliant because, quite often it's not as high as 40%. Franchising is a fantastic industry, but it's not very well known out there. So, 40% of you guys are actually looking at franchising your business. Then please make sure with whatever you do, try and get the right kind of advice, proper advice. There's a lot of consultants out there that's really happily take your money. But please, contact myself or the British Franchise Association or any of those just to help you get there. If there are any questions, please get in touch with QuickBooks support or myself or the support team on Facebook or with myself. So you can reach me at sean@thespecialadvisor.com. That's SEAN at thespecialadvisor.com, or just visit my website, myfranchiseboards.com. Be more than happy to chat to you guys. And then coming up tomorrow is Ariona, who will be hosting her 8th live session of Ask the Expert. Ariona is the managing director of Major Accounts, and she's been nominated for 3 awards for the Women in Accounting and Finance Awards 2020, which is very, very impressive. Thank you for tuning in. It has been a lot of fun to answer all your questions. Please make sure to tune in tomorrow and have a great day, everybody.